Lucky Boys Podcast.
What's an ideal situation?
I mean,
like, where do most police officers want to be? Like, for example, a lot of people that join a company, they say, oh, if I go into like a certain role within the company,
C-level management.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so every person's different, so I can't speak for them. Some guys want to be at the precinct and just do administrative work.
That's true. One of my buddies did that.
Yeah. Some people want to be a teacher, like at the academy.
Right.
Some people want to teach gym and tactics because that's their calling.
So it's funny. It moves like any other company.
It's everybody has an ambition, but the problem is like your evaluations have to reflect that you deserve it.
Okay.
If you're going out there and you're writing zeros and you're not arresting people at all, like what criteria do I have to objectively use to paint a holistic picture of you as an officer? You're not active in enforcement. You might be really good at the community, but you're not enforcing. So, you're applying for.
But maybe that's part of the enforcing, the tactic that they're using. Is being part of the community.
But if you're letting everyone go on everything,
right, if you have zeros, that's kind of crazy.
Oh, that's suspect. I mean, like,
yeah,
you have
it's
zero.
like, well, what do you do?
How about
doing?
the police officers in good areas with low crime rates? I mean, I'm sure they
There's
get
still
zeros.
activity. They get activity. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff happening. Like, listen, you could be in a really good precinct. People still run red lights. Run stop signs.
Car accidents.
Accidents.
Can I say that also, like, I don't think it's cool with some of the entrapment. I also had like and I feel like I'm complaining to you, but
I'm your social
like
worker. Psychologist.
they set up a trap.
How so?
So it was actually right up the block. They set up a trap where they had they turn on the traffic light as a blinking red light.
Okay.
So that means that you have to, or blinking on, what's that, yellow light or whatever.
Okay.
And they need, so that means that you need to come to a complete stop if someone's on the sidewalk. Say they have the right of way. You have to let them cross the street. Now, keep in mind, this is a humongous street. It's not a highway, but it is a street, but it's huge.
It has several lanes.
All in all, it's 4 lanes, but then there's a parking area parking spots on the side. So it's so wide that if you really wanted to do 8 lanes of cars next to each other, you can probably fit 8 cars across.
Okay.
Right. It's not like a tight street. So it's wide. Driving down the street, police officer has someone in a yellow umbrella or whatever, a bright umbrella that they have. I guess they're a person in the force. Right. And they're pulling over a shitload of people on the side. They have them go up the ramp to this like school or whatever, this private area, and they're just handing tickets out. And it wasn't someone actually crossing the street. They just staged it. So I go in there and I see the blinking light, but I also see a bunch of cars moving. I'm moving with the traffic.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't see the person with the yellow umbrella. I never saw, it was raining. Right. And I'm moving with traffic, and then once I hit the next light, a police officer on foot
Came up to you.
knocked on my window, and they're on a whole row of cars.
Okay.
So they're going boop 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 boop. You go over there. You keep going. You keep going. Yep. You stop. You go over there. You go over there. And I'm like, why the heck am I over there? I was baffled. Okay. I'm like, is it my registration? Like, what the heck's going on? And then they said, you didn't let that person cross the street. I was like, what are you talking about? What person? What
It's an invisible man.
What person? And they said, well, you could fight the ticket, but just to let you know, there's a camera over there on that traffic.
Oh, staged it then.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
of course it's staged because, like, number one, there's like the police vehicles are there.
The pedestrian was an actor.
I got robbed. It's a money grab. They set it up. They set it up. They set the person up there. They made the lights blink, just so that they could write tickets.
Imagine they had the control and they
Okay, well,
so I could give them a donation. Like, it was crazy to me. I honestly didn't. And if the traffic is moving, if the light turns whatever, and other cars are moving, and this person doesn't cross the street and they stay in the sidewalk the whole time, it's like, of course I'm gonna move. I'm not gonna step on like all these other cars behind me, and the cars in front of me are already moved, and this person's just standing on a sidewalk, not crossing the street. Let's say I even did see that person, right? If all these cars are moving and this person's still standing on a sidewalk, like, Like, what am I doing? And the cars in front of me, if they didn't get a ticket, that means that they did stop for this person to cross the street, and this person still doesn't cross the street. How am I supposed to get a ticket? I don't know. It's just they do shit like that, man. It's like, dude, what the fuck?
I really need to look up your record now.
Yeah, look it up, man.
But I'm not gonna do that because I'm on camera doing this.
Actually, I paid my ticket and everything.
You paid it?
I paid it, man.
You should have contested it.
I wanted to, but
I'm telling you that as a cop and you're,
I know.
and your social worker,
do it all
and
the time.
psychologist
Yeah,
and
but you know what?
every
I was
other
just
hat I'm
like,
wearing.
at that point, like I was just a new father at that point.
Yeah. I got you.
And I was
you're
like,
busy.
I got no time to go to court.
Yeah, I got you. So
I'm not gonna play this. I'm just gonna pay and get over it.
So I'm not gonna. I can't
It'd
really.
be actually more aggravating for me to go to court.
Yeah.
At that stage of my life,
because you have to.
I
take
value
the time
sleep
out.
and all that. Yeah, I was like, this is gonna be way more aggravating. Waiting, because the way you have to wait is just bonkers.
No, it's crazy.
So I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
So I'll address that along with the, I guess, the quota and the racial disparity.
Sorry,
and,
I got on a complete personal tangent, guys.
No, that's cool, man. I can't talk to whether or not it's entrapment, but it sounds like you went through a checkpoint pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was an actor. Obviously, I don't think it's
Definitely
ethical.
was,
I think it's ethical for us to if it was in fact true that it was an actor, that's pretty messed up. But it could have been also a crazy person. Who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't really talk about it. I feel bad for you.
Well, it is what it is. I mean, it's not like, the worst things can happen. It's just, it was just like a money grab. I do want to move in more important topics with you.
So I'll address that racial disparity and then we'll just move on.
Yeah.
So TVB, like Traffic Violations Bureau, they schedule who appears at court. So I don't think they have yes, it might seem like there's a disproportionate amount of minorities over there responding to violations, but we don't schedule that, and it doesn't necessarily reflect like who we wrote. Also, because those tickets can be like 3 years old, some of them are 5 years old. Like it's insane, like how backed up and how many postponements people can get. So that I don't.
Always people of color.
Listen,
like overwhelming. Like I've seen white people.
Well, there are more minorities in New York than there are white people.
Not even in New York. Like outside of New York, when I was living in other areas, or going to, I'm telling you, it is. I'm curious of our viewers. If you live in a predominantly white neighborhood, or if you're white yourself, and you ever went to court and pleaded not guilty, were you just like the random white guy, or were you like seeing I can't imagine a scenario where I plead not guilty, I show up to court, and I see a sea of white people.
You have to move to the suburbs.
That'll make me go. I do somewhat live in the suburbs, right?
You gotta now you do. Yes,
now I do, but even before I did, and when we were in college, so it was still
all minorities.
I lived in a white neighborhood, and I moved off campus, and I lived in a white neighborhood. It was right where we lived was a white neighborhood.
Yeah,
right?
predominantly.
We didn't live in the south side.
Caucasian,
If we live in the south side of that area, then that's all minority. That's a party area. But we lived in the white area, which we turned into a party area. But we didn't break the law. But
some people get
when I went to court in the white area, it was all people of color.
Right, and it could be a lot of different factors. Like people don't really.
And my white friends told me they wouldn't get pulled over.
Right.
So when I told them stories about me being followed for blocks, they're like, "I don't know what you're talking about, Will."
It's completely it's completely probable, but there's a lot of different factors also, because if you really look at the DMV, like when you go to get your license and everything, right? When you go through that whole process and you go to driving school, they don't teach you a lot of the rules of the road. They just teach you how to pass the test. So a lot of people that might show up, like these minorities that you're talking about, like the disproportionate amount, maybe they went to driving school and they were just poorly trained, and they just make violations. Like here, man. No, it might be far fetched, and I'm not gonna.
So you're saying like all white people get good DMVs, like good driving schools,
good coaches.
But here, if you look at it from an economic standpoint, right? White people have more money than minorities, right? Right, so they're more apt to own cars outright. So they have more time to spend with the kids to teach them the rules on the road. Whereas if you're a minority, you're strapped for time because you're working day to day, living paycheck to paycheck, right? You're just going to enroll if your kid wants to learn how to drive, he's just going to enroll himself in a driving school. They're not going to teach him the rules of the road. They're just going to teach him how to pass the test.
I think
right? I think that's a part of it.
I think it's easier to write tickets that people live in low income areas who cannot afford attorneys
to fight it.
Who doesn't have the education background and who doesn't have the power or the connections to fight back. So it's easier to pick on those people than it is to pick on people that are wealthy, that have connections, that
could pay off tickets,
and
don't have to,
or that have lawyers, and that could fight back against the police officers.
It just seems more plausible for that to happen than just like, I mean, I'm sure there's an element of the DMV poorly trained taking the test. I'm sure there's an element of that, but it seems more plausible that, you know, these are targeted areas. We're gonna profile and then to get these guys.
Well, it's completely possible. I'm not going to discount that. I'm just saying, like, it's a multifaceted problem. It's not just like, oh, well, I observed this and therefore it is.
Whether it's in Queens or up north or down south, and I went to court for it, it was always other minorities. It was always people of color. And I'm like, yo, what the hell? The first time I didn't think anything of it.
Right.
Didn't think anything of it. The second time I was like, okay.
It started to click after.
The third time, I'm a slow learner. The third time, and I'm completely like out of New York, and I'm going, wait, but we live in a white neighborhood, and I see everyone in court. It's all minorities. Maybe there's one white kid there, but the one white kid wasn't dressed like he was dressed hood. Mm-hmm. You know, he had baggy clothes on. So I was like, they probably gave it to him in a lower income area. They didn't, you know, if you look at the statistics, I'm willing to bet that you don't see a lot of those folks there. And again, I don't think it's all costs, but I'm just saying, like, in general, it's a lot easier when you're trying to get your numbers up, we're tying it back, to go after the people who cannot fight back versus someone who is connected. You don't know who they know at the office. You don't know if you're pulling over someone who's connected to the DA. Right. You don't know. You just don't know. So, but you're probably willing to bet that they're not hanging out at the bodega or at the lower income area, because there's nothing there. Like, people that are affluent probably aren't hanging out in these lower income areas or driving past there. So it's probably easier to go after those folks than it is to go after the wealthy areas. Okay,
so I mean, I guess we can move on to another topic, but I'll just address it one last time and say that, you know, it's the way you feel is also colored by your experiences, right? And obviously your experiences haven't been all that positive.
No, I have a lot of positive
in terms of
with police officers.
In terms of the speeding tickets, because you know apparently can't drive.
Not speeding. I don't.
Okay, not speeding tickets, but traffic infractions. That's what I mean.
Let's get this right. I never had one speeding ticket in my life.
Okay, so
not one.
Okay, so I misspoke. Your traffic infractions.
I got stop sign tickets, red light tickets, and all of which are
huge violations.
No signaling.
Right.
All of going over the speed limit by 1 mile per hour.
I don't even think that's defensible. Summons there's usually like a 5 mile differential.
Or they say abruptly driving or
stopping abruptly or
something like that. Or what else it was several years ago. Or my car was too loud, noise pollution.
Loud exhaust or something.
Yeah, and I told the officer, I was like, my exhaust is broken. I have a leak. I have an exhaust leak.
That one you can definitely fight.
I fought every single one of them, and it was not guilty. They said no points, but then it was depending on the judge, they still charge you. You still get a surcharge.
There's an $88 surcharge in New York, and then they tack on whatever discretionary fee.
So I'm like, wait a minute.
What? Yo,
so $88 by default, man.
Yeah, so
$88 by default. $88 by default.
Yeah.
And then whatever it is for the infraction.
Exactly. So I was like, wait a minute. Scale. You made me take out my whole day to come here to fight for something I didn't do, just to prove that I'm innocent, and I get no points, which was right. You'll make it seem like that's a gift to me. And thank you to the judge, but then, and I know not the judge's fault, but then the surcharge, I'm going, wait. I still got to pay like 100 balls. Like,
it's a compromise. Like, the way they measure it is by clear and convincing evidence. So it's based on the testimony of the officer and what you have to say and whether or not you can provide some proof to dispute it, blah, blah, blah.
But you still have to pay the surcharge.
No, you still have to pay the surcharge.
You only pay the surcharge if you're guilty. If you're found guilty of an infraction.
Right.
You can't, if you can't be mandated to pay the surcharge if you're not guilty.
Right. So since my case, I have multiple tickets, they threw out
like 4 and
then left one. Yeah. And I still had to pay a surcharge. So no matter what, they were like, I'm not leaving.
They made you seem like you got a deal, but
it's a compromise.
It comes down to the bottom line. Come on, let's not be ignorant.
Money's always a part of the issue. But anyway, just to go back, we'll finish this up, even though I'm not the moderator, because I'm calling the shots.
There you go.
We just like to chat.
He's gonna wave
We're
his
gonna
taser around.
But you know, the traffic infractions,
How do you get out of it?
it's colored by your PBA card, but that's not even going to get you out all the time. But anyway, I think your experiences also your view of I guess the disproportionate minorities being present in traffic violations bureau and like your own experience getting tickets, that's colored by your experiences. So it might seem to you like, yes, minorities are getting the bulk of it, and it may be true. I don't know the statistics off the top of my head. I'm not paid to know, so I'm not going to know. But my last thought about that is that I think it's very hard for an officer to really pinpoint your race when you're driving in a car anyway, like because you're speeding by them at like 25 miles an hour.
Let's move on.
We'll move on.
Crime rate.
Yes,
it's up.
Okay, and that's a great question because I think Lex brought it up. Oh yeah, these officers, they were standing by during the protest and not doing anything.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about protest.
But then he followed it up with, I think the crime rate's just up, and well, it's probably up because police aren't doing anything. So I'll address it. I think he has a valid point, like in regards to, oh yeah, well the protests, looting was going on and police officers weren't doing anything. Obviously, I can't address it because I wasn't there, but you have to look at it from a operational standpoint too. Like certain cops have certain assignments, right? Are you going to violate the chain of command? Yes, you can. You can. Are you going to put yourself in a situation where you get surrounded by looters, by yourself, like in 3 or 4 man group, 6 man group, whatever it is? You're surrounded by people.
Yeah, outnumbered.
Yeah. Are you really
clusters of people?
And you're exposing yourself to maximal risk of getting your weapon taken away or getting hurt. You know, I mean, yes.
At that point,
you can make the argument that, hey, this is your job. You signed up for it. My job is also to my family too. I got to get home in one piece, right? And you know, some people will say, "Oh, that's cowardice," but it's tactical. It's tactical. You have to be smart about how you approach things. For you to enter a firefight with a firearm fight with a knife, does that seem smart? I don't know. I don't think so. But if you go into that,
so
you're
saying that in a situation like that, for example, with the
you're going to call for
that,
backup
that you brought up with Lex, you're doing the math there, and you're going, you know, we're not well equipped for the situation to handle.
Right,
it
and then if you have to exercise deadly force because you're outnumbered, guess what? That's a headline in the news.
Because
you're getting
at the
sued,
end of the day,
fired.
they're not hurting anyone.
Right, it's property, and that's the exact argument that looters and rioters are making. Property is property. Who cares? Like a black life was lost. Why do you care about property and protecting it? So why doesn't that apply to us?
You talking about the police force?
Yeah. So do you want us to prevent looting, right? So we're protecting someone's property, right? Isn't that what it is? But then on the flip side,
I actually saw police officers trying to
and
protect. I didn't have the same.
You mean
like where police
storefronts and
officers
stuff?
was like, fuck that, go ahead, loot this shit.
Okay, so
I saw police officers trying, like for example, the Macy's on 34th Street. Police, when they were looting that, police officers were going in there trying to apprehend some of the suspects that were in the store and rushing out as soon as they found out the police were there.
Right, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it and that we aren't going to do it, but there are tactical considerations. If it's 6 of you or 8 of you or 10 of you and you're heading into a crowd of like 200 looters, you're going to get outnumbered really fast. And you're going to need backup.
It's a dangerous situation.
It's a dangerous situation. And it's all to protect property.
If 200 people start jumping on you, that's not a good situation.
You're going to use your firearm if you get surrounded because your life is in danger, right? And guess what happens after that lawsuit? Oh, yeah, you're racist. You killed a black guy. You know, it just goes round and round. But the whole thing about property, like, hey, like, you're saying that property doesn't matter, but a black life matters. Then you want us to respond there and put our life is not worth as much as a black person's life to protect property.
I don't think that's what people are saying. I think people are just saying that they're going after the property, and you getting the other people on the other side of the fence are going, look, there's a crime taking place right in front of you. I want you to stop it. But I understand from the police officer's perspective, because if I was a police officer and let's say I'm outnumbered 10-1 or 20-1, or in this case in New York it was more like 50-1.
Right.
I have to do the math there and go, all right, they're going to damage the property no matter what.
Right.
I'm one police officer. I may be able to get a couple of guys arrested.
But you can't
there,
stop what's happening.
can't
but
stop
what
it,
about the other 47 guys? You know, so I get that part. But I don't think people are saying we don't care about police officers' lives, that black lives are the most important.
No, but that's not the point I'm making. It's like, all right, you said, okay, you're justifying the rioting and looting and saying, well, it's
I'm not justifying the
no,
rioting.
but I'm not saying
okay.
you. But in general, people are saying,
Yeah.
oh, hey, the looters and the rioters, they're taking property. Who cares? A black life was lost. And then you're gonna, you
Who's
can't.
saying that?
No,
I
but
think
people say that.
both is wrong.
People say that.
I think
There are people out
to
there
take a
who are
black
saying-
life in
saying
vain, and to take then those are the.
But that's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
know.
They qualify that by saying that. I'm just like, you're justifying like rioting and looting and saying that, oh, well, it's just property. A black person was lost. I mean, it's not even. I don't even know how you even get to that conclusion, honestly.
I think-
because then you want police officers to protect property, but just let them take the property and protect the police officer's life, right? Isn't it? If you think about it in that sort of logical progression.
Well, even that, if you think about it, the police officers engaged, there's going to be more lives lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
you get
on your
surrounded
way to defend yourself, you're
Yeah.
you're gonna buck some people,
for property.
yeah.
For property.
So I mean,
I think people who
but
make
that's
that
not-
comment is more of a macro thing.
But that's
Like,
not
they
what
compare-
I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the crime rates up because of the looting. I'm not talking about.
oh yes, So we'll get.
I'm
to
talking
that.
about-
Let's get to that.
like actual crime, people
Okay.
to people, human crime. I'm not talking about you went over and there was 300 people mobbing and then we decided to go in the store and go crazy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like murder, shootings, armed robberies. I mean, there's just video surfacing of people. I mean, one that just broke my heart. I saw this guy with his daughter, and anytime I see,
Oh yeah, when he
anything-
gets gunned down on the sidewalk, the guy just pulls up right next to him. That pop.
yeah, and
Yeah, I saw that.
he was holding his daughter. He was
Yeah.
taking care of her, and then especially you see that in a black community where they're saying, a lot of people. There's voices out there, even celebrities are saying, black fathers need to be more present. And here you have a black. I don't know the backstory of
just took one out.
why they shot, but you just took one out that seems to be taking care of his daughter. And that hurt my heart. Whether you're black, white, whatever.
As a parent, yeah.
As a parent, that hurt my heart seeing someone's. It really did, because I could empathize with that, and that really bothers me. Even gangsters, they have a code that I've talked to before where there's been times where they
Some,
could have
not
taken someone out, but just because that person was with their mother, they dialed it back. Or that person was with their kids, they dialed it back.
Right.
They decided like now's not the time. So, man, to just kill someone right next to while they're taking care of the daughter, I that's rough for me to digest. I know we live in a place that's not, it's not it's not heaven. I know that shit goes on, but it still doesn't make it any better.
Yeah, it's
That
just-
said, crime rate is up. Numbers are up severely, and there's complaints that police officers are just kind of just letting it happen, especially in the lower income areas.
Okay, I hear the criticism. It's I'm not going to speak for the department itself, obviously, but in general, in the summertime, violence usually escalates anyway.
Very
So
true.
because people just come out, and I guess the heat gets to them, and they just go buck wild, and they just
Yeah,
lose
that's
it.
very true.
Isolation makes them go crazy.
And
Well,
you have the
the
isolation,
isolation
part
doesn't
too.
help. Yeah.
That's not helping, and the joblessness,
The
obviously.
joblessness, people are frustrated.
So there's a whole bunch of elements at play that might contribute to overall uptick in crime. But then you also have this initiative now that the city is pushing through, which is, okay, we're going to take plainclothes officer off the streets. We're going to take all the plainclothes officers off the street and put them back on patrol or doing some other assignment. Well, guess what? What do you think is going to happen? Now there's no fear of getting pulled up on by a plainclothes officer that if you were doing something stupid, there's literally nothing to keep these bangers from there's nothing to keep them honest. Right? Like if you lived on a problem block and our plainclothes officers in an unmarked car rolls by and they see something, because in a marked car you're not going to see everything because they know you're coming a mile away, right? If you're in an unmarked car, there's still that element of fear that you strike in some of these people's heart.
Is that uncertainty? Like,
Yeah,
could this person,
someone could just pull up on me and
Yeah.
I'm doing something stupid like playing 3 dice CeeLo or whatever. you know, whatever it is.
No, I'm not talking about
but
like,
a guy like
little crime like that.
no, I know,
just
I know.
doing
But that's what I'm saying.
gambling. I'm talking
But that's
about
the
like
stuff
murders.
But that's the stuff that can lead to a gun arrest. It's completely plausible because if you stop the guy, right, for playing dice on the street, you don't necessarily have to arrest him, right? You should, but in the process of arresting him, you have to pat him down, make sure he doesn't have weapons, right? Search incidental to lawful arrest.
Wait, hold on. If I'm rolling dice on a sidewalk, you
It's a
can arrest me
misdemeanor.
for that?
Yeah. If you're playing it for money and there's money in someone's hand.
So like,
Illegal gambling.
so for
Illegal
example,
gambling, it's
if Norm, me,
game of
and,
chance.
and a buddy, we had a blackjack and we were playing blackjack and we had like dollars.
Yeah,
you
it's-
could arrest me for that?
Games of chance.
Holy shit!
Wait, this is only in public, right?
That's
And, like, let's
wild.
say like I have a Texas Hold'em playing
No,
poker.
no, no.
Yeah,
that's
it's different.
Right.
In public, if you're doing it and there's a crowd, you know, you draw attention to yourself and people call it in and it becomes a thing. We have every right to like come up to you, investigate.
That's a crime. I did not know that.
That's a crime. Games of chance in public. If you're doing it with strangers for money and you're exchanging money, then yes. But here's the thing, like a lot of people think we just stop people frivolously. Like a lot of plainclothes guys, they just like people just like, oh yo man, these guys just stopped them and patted them down for no reason. There's usually a reason behind it. You just don't know. It could be for jaywalking.
So you said-
here's
you
another
said-
violation that people don't know about. Like if you cross the street while the light is blinking red, I could stop you for that. I could stop you for that. That's a violation. People don't know that. You're not supposed to cross when it's blinking
No, I
red.
think cops are
which
pretty
is-
cool with that. Like
I know.
Like
but
I've seen.
I'm saying
this
but,
is New York. People
but
jaywalk 24/7.
I could stop you for spitting on the sidewalk.
But most cops don't. Like cops,
It
at least in my
depends.
experience,
Yeah.
I haven't seen cops take it to that extreme.
Yeah,
Like where
it's
that's
pretty
a
easy
norm.
going out here.
Yeah,
but then when
yeah.
you go out upstate or
Right.
a different area,
Some people
They
don't mind.
They don't. They're
But
just like.
there will be people that mind eventually. But here's the reason why it's I guess an effective tool to use for the basis of a stop. Because let's say you saw a wanted poster, you got transferred to a new precinct. You saw a wanted poster and you see the face, right? You see a guy, like you go back out on patrol, you see a guy that's crossing a street against the red light, and it's like, hey, that guy kind of looks like the guy that was on the wanted poster. Guess what? He just
makes
crossed
sense.
against the red light, and it seems frivolous to the layperson. Like, why are you stopping him for jaywalking? Why? Or crossing against the red light, whatever. Jaywalking's a little different. It's like crisscrossing the street.
Right.
But he's crossing the red light. Everyone does that all the time, officer. Why are you giving him a hard time? Yo, listen, man, you don't even know what the hell is going through my mind and why I'm stopping him. You don't know this, but people prejudge anyway. It's like, oh, you're just hassling him because he's black, Hispanic, he's a minority, blah, blah, blah. You have no right to bother him. Guess what? Some cop did that in the precinct that they worked at. Got a murderer off the street.
Back
It's
to
just
the
a very-
crime
yeah.
rate. Like it
Crime-
can't just be all attributed to the summertime because they're
No,
looking
I'm
at year
not
over
attributing
year.
to that. I mean, I qualified it with saying that, you know, now you have this disbandment of the anti-crime units.
Right, exactly. Let's talk about
plainclothes guys.
that.
No one brings that up though.
So the anti-crime unit is the plainclothes police officers.
that is the plainclothes police officers.
Got it.
So
All right.
why did they disband it?
Because I don't know, you're gonna have to ask the leadership, like, you know, city council, the mayor, police commissioner. I mean, I'm pretty sure that order, I think it came down from the police commissioner, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm sure there was a lot of discussion about it because it creates more trust. That's the basis of creating such a policy. Now, whether or not it contributes to
sorry. It creates more trust to have plainclothes police officers.
no,
The other way
have
around. To have them uniformed so that you could
uniforms.
identify them.
But now you've taken the element of surprise away, and you know they justify it and they say, well, yeah, it creates more trust and transparency between the community and the police department.
I don't think that's a singular reason of why crime is up. For some reason,
Well-
criminals think that, and they are literally getting away with murder now. For whatever reason, they know like now's the time to get someone.
So, I mean, I pointed to the disbandment of the anti-crime units, right? I mentioned the unemployment rate, people going crazy at home. Now they're getting out. And then you also have, you still have rolling protests going on. So the NYPD is actually short-staffed as it is. So then they still want to defund us anyway. But like you have cops that are allocated to protests. So that means less cops on patrol.
all their efforts are
Right.
manpower is
So you're
being
saying
redirected to
It's being
other,
stretched right now.
They can't address the real problems.
It's not that we can't do more with less. The problem is that when you consistently have like a shortage of manpower at the precinct level, you're going to get an uptick in something. In fact, I have friends that were in a completely different division. Like now they're patrolling in the Bronx because there's no people to man the precinct. There's not enough people. And then you mix that in with COVID infections. Not that they're really, not that it's a big thing now, I guess, because the rates have been going down. But you have people being redirected, anti-crime being whatever.
Actually,
disbanded.
rates have been going up. Well, depending what state.
It's slowly, yeah. New York, I think it's still on the, it's kind of low right now.
Yeah.
It's on a downturn, might be ticking up again. But you have all these factors, and it's a multifaceted thing. You can't just say, "Oh, well, the cops are just not doing anything." You know,
it's not purposeful where the police are not taking calls.
It's not willful
Malfeasance.
negligence.
Yeah.
You know, like that. We just don't want to do our jobs. Our job is to protect and serve, right? It's to enforce.
Yeah.
And you can't really effectively do that all the time when you have less tools and less manpower. And you're always, if you're on.
But are police officers trying to prove a point?
I don't think.
Hey, you want to defund me?
No.
And I'm just asking a question here because, just a coincidence. It seems that crime has gone up since people has been more vocal about defunding the police.
Right. I don't believe that police are skirting their responsibilities. I really hate to think that any officer is like
Rashad
that.
Brooks case.
Oh, the Wendy's thing?
They're not even answering 911 calls. That was right on in the news.
Right. I saw it too.
It's not like a
But again,
conspiracy. The news actually reported that.
I don't know what's going on in Atlanta necessarily because I know enough about the whole situation, but I don't know why they didn't respond. Maybe there was something else going on.
Now with NYPD, I know NYPD right now, the public's perception across the nation, they just have a real. There's memes about the NYPD,
right.
with this aggressive
It's all-time low, perception of police just across the country is all-time low.
Honestly, like the perception of police was never really that high to begin with, except during 9/11. I hate to sound cynical about it, but would you guys agree that the public perception of police was all-time high at 9/11, and then every other instance before that, it was never really held.
But
in
in
high
9/11,
regard.
you guys were motherfucking heroes.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
You guys took one in the chin. The fire department did, EMTs. All
Right.
of you guys came through and shined for us.
and that
that was beautiful.
Right,
That was really beautiful.
and that went away real fast. It went away real fast. It's just like the COVID-19 pandemic when it first hit. Oh man, first responders, man. Oh man, they're like heroes on the front lines.
I think people still look at them like that.
And then all it took was Rayshard Brooks, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. That's all it took. This completely
Breonna Taylor,
that
was fucked up.
It's a fucked up situation.
She's innocent.
Well, yeah, she's an innocent victim in all of this.
Proven she's sleeping with and her boyfriend.
But the whole situation for that is that the whole situation is just unfortunate. She's collateral damage. So, I don't know how familiar you guys are with no-knock warrants, but it's used for the element of surprise to prevent criminals from destroying evidence, essentially. But here's the weird thing about the Breonna Taylor. Is it Taylor? Yes, Breonna Taylor.
Breonna
Taylor. Yeah. So,
but destroy evidence. It seems like it's the other way around now.
Well,
there's no evidence of.
I can't even respond to that, honestly.
Yeah, I know you can't. But what I'm saying is, it seems like it's the other way around now.
Right. It's just there's no body cams. So, I don't know how they do it over there. So I can't really comment on it, obviously, because I don't know enough, and I don't want to just assume, right?
Sure.
So as far as I'm concerned, like the way I break it down as a police officer, they had a no-knock warrant, right? But the officers knocked on the door multiple times. And Kenneth Taylor, is it Kenneth Taylor? Walker. I'm sorry, Kenneth Walker. I keep mixing up the last name. Yeah, Kenneth Walker. He actually acknowledges in a recording that he heard a knock. And the next thing you know, he says, the hinges fly off the door and I'm firing around right at that direction.
I would too, wouldn't you?
Right.
If someone comes busting through my
Busting
door
through
and
your
I
door.
see hinges flying, my first reaction, if I have a gun in the house, is to get my gun. Who's doing this to me?
Right. And here's the thing. He said that he was trying to fire at the ground as a warning shot, right? Okay, that's fine and dandy. So he heard the knock and then he saw his door getting taken down. Now, the point of contention is whether or not the police announced themselves. According to the police, they said they announced themselves. But of course, there's no body cam footage,
Right.
Can't
which
confirm it, yeah.
you can't confirm anything. So
But how do you end up
it's he
killing
said, she
Breonna
said.
Taylor? She didn't have a gun.
Okay, let me ask you this.
How do you get to that point?
If you were in that in those shoes where you were
Which shoes?
battering the cop shoes,
Okay.
if you were serving that no knock warrant and you knocked and you got no response and now you're taking the door, next thing you know, you got a bullet flying at you. What is your first response?
If someone's busting through my door like that, I would shoot at them.
Right.
I would 100% shoot at someone breaking into my home. 100%.
Okay.
Like that, especially with the doors flying off like that. That's going to scare the shit out of me.
And this is in
I'm going to
Kentucky,
be
right?
startled.
This isn't Kentucky
So
where they
right.
have stand your
right.
ground.
Right. And if there's stand your ground laws and I'm there with my girl and you're doing this, I'm going to be like, holy shit. I don't know. I think you might be a robber.
Right. But I'm
And
asking,
robbers can-
I'm asking you to be in the
robbers
shoes of
can-
the cops when the bullet
Yeah,
comes
but if
at
I'm a
you.
cop, I'm also putting myself in the shoes of a robber. What they or the person that I'm trying to apprehend. I have to think what they're thinking. I have to get in the mindset of what they're thinking, so I can know how the best way to proceed. That said, if I'm doing that and I'm already charged up, I'm the one that escalated the situation. Not whoever was behind the door. I'm the one. I'm the one knocking on the door. I'm the one that was the catalyst to start this. Now, if he's innocent and he fired at me, that's my bad. I started this. I'm wrong. I got bad intel. That's not an excuse. It's my job to get the right intel. It's not my job to kill innocent people sleeping.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, you didn't know it was bad intel until after everything happened. And then even
But
then,
it's my job. You're in a high stakes game. If you're willing to shoot someone,
okay, let me just say this.
you can't just go around getting bad information like that.
I think the majority of people are going to say, yeah, the cops were wrong. It doesn't matter. But I'm just offering my perspective, right?
Sure.
As a police officer. If I'm breaking down your door and I announce myself, whether or not they did is, whatever. I announced myself. I break down the door. A bullet comes flying through and it hits my partner.
Did
Guess
a bullet
what?
hit anyone?
Yeah,
You
it
did?
hit an officer, which is why they returned fire. Are you going to tell me, like,
So I mean, as a police officer, you're
returning
saying
fire.
You're returning fire. That's the right of the police officer to return fire due to that incident.
you just had deadly force
being
used
attacked.
against you? And this is exactly what happened in the Rayshard Brooks type of incident. Granted, they're not completely the same.
It's not. That's
But
two completely different
yeah, I know.
things.
But
Two
you
completely
have
different
deadly
things.
force exercised against you,
But you-
in both instances.
But you instigated that. You made that situation happen. It's your fault.
Well,
You made that situation. You created that energy. Look, if cops, so you're telling
it's
me
a no-knock warrant. So when you take that into consideration,
an
No. I'm here. Listen to me. When you have a no-knock warrant, you have the element of surprise, right? How can you control how the other
But you
person
broke that
behind
element
the
of
door?
surprise anyway by knocking on the door.
Yeah, I know.
And
He
introducing
gave
yourself,
them,
allegedly.
but they didn't answer the door. I mean, yeah, they were sleeping. So it's a complicated situation. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, it's his fault. It's his fault." My opinion on that is that you can't just assign blame so readily because you are getting shot at. Even in a military situation, active shooter situation, when a threat presents itself, you're going to return that threat with equal force. And you might disagree with how many bullets were used or
shot.
spent, but your comrade just got shot.
And from a police perspective, you don't know how many people are in.
You don't know how many people are in there.
department.
So
You
something,
have one
something
shot go
doesn't
off,
sit
right?
right with me. Like, all right,
think-
let's say all that is true. Let's
is?
say all that is true. Then why not turn on the fucking body cam? How did all of y'all forget to put on
They
your
don't
body
have
cam?
body cams. That's the thing. Like, and that's part
Wait,
of
they
the
don't
problem.
have body cams in that?
They didn't have body cams in that instance.
No, but do they have body cams in that?
I don't know what they do in Kentucky, but because I don't work in Kentucky. But
I
as far as I
believe
know,
that there were body cams, but they just didn't turn it on.
I don't know if they have body cams, but if they did, then and they didn't turn it on, that's on them.
Then to me, then that is, and let's say that's true. Then there's something wrong with that. There's
if it's true, I mean, we have to verify.
Because
can we get
you know what?
somebody
If
to
I'm-
verify that?
yeah, right. Norm, you want to verify that? You know, because you know what? If I'm about to do something, and every single one of my comrades have their cameras off, then I'm gonna say that we plan to execute her.
Well, I don't
Because
think
if I'm doing something illegal, if I'm doing something that I know could backfire on all of us, why am I gonna turn on my body cam?
right.
Right? It's gonna make me look guilty in this sense.
Right. Again, I mean, I don't know if they actually had it or not, but if they didn't turn it on, I mean, that's
But
negligent.
There's no body cam footage.
yeah,
number one.
there is no body cam footage, which is why I'm saying like I don't
Right.
think they had body cams.
Then something smells really fishy.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, Norman's gonna verify it for us.
There were 3 plainclothes officers that used a no-knock warrant, but then altogether there were like 150 officers that went to the scene. So some of them had body cams, some of them didn't.
Yeah, but that doesn't.
It's not clear. It's not clear if the 3 plainclothes officers had body cams on them. Probably
Right.
not because they were plainclothes.
No, I mean that doesn't really.
Doesn't matter if they.
Sometimes
plainclothes
it
or not?
doesn't matter because it really depends on like budgetary and how the department like over there allocates resources. Like it's completely plausible that they didn't have body cams just cause like they just don't give it to them, or they just want body cams on patrol because there's just not enough money to go around for body cams on everybody.
Yeah.
Or they're in the process of transitioning everybody to body cams. So it's completely plausible that they didn't have it. But like you said, it's not clear, right?
How do you explain that the Breonna Taylor incident report
Was
virtually
blank?
coming blank? How do you explain that?
I think they explained it as. How did they explain it? I think they said that it was a clerical error, or that it
Oh
wasn't
come on, that's suspicious,
incomplete.
bro.
Hey, listen.
I mean,
I
clerical
don't,
error?
I don't know how they
body
do it.
camera footage has been turned over.
But again, like you said,
Right.
It's
Virtually for a case like that of murder,
Right.
right? Where that many shots were fired and the police report is like blank.
right. It's
That's-
a little weird. It's a little weird, but again, like the whole case, I think was it still under investigation?
I think it's still on the.
It's
Yeah.
still under
investigation.
investigation. I don't know if like the thing is like when you have information like that, you pretty much have to verify if it's still valid. Like a lot of people just take information like as it comes out, as and then they don't.
Not all the pieces are-
Not
are
all
there
the
yet.
pieces are in place. There's no update. Like because you have cases like these that are sensationalized.
But isn't it like kind of? I mean, like from outside looking in, if you're not releasing it, it's a little suspicious.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is to everybody that's I guess a civilian and not like a uniformed member. It can be viewed as suspicious, but sometimes body cam footage, like yeah, it's readily available, but for whatever reason, it just takes a while for legal to clear it to.
I'm sure there's a lot of
Yeah.
bureaucracy.
I'm
NDAs. I mean, like in business, it's
Right.
the same thing. You have the
It's-
NDAs. It takes forever legal to clear anything.
There's always some other factor at play. Now,
Yeah.
regarding the blank, I guess, incident report, is that what it was called? The
Yeah.
incident report? I don't know why it was blank. They said it was a clerical error, I think. I don't know if I'm right on that, but there could be a bunch of reasons why it's blank, whether or not it's still blank, and like how long it took to be unblanked and filled out. Like we don't know that. Does anyone know that? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, man, but it just seems
It's fishy to everyone that watches it from the outside that wasn't there. And we don't know the department regulations for like when these incident reports are due.
no body cam footage, a virtually blank incident report.
Well, I mean, again, it's
You have an
you don't
innocent
know.
life lost. All this looks like you know what?
Yeah, it looks messed up.
Like a cover-up.
The optics are bad.
It looks like a cover up
Yeah, the optics are bad. But again,
because they couldn't even put words to paper to justify the killing.
right? Again, like we don't know what the departmental guidelines are for having an incident
Of
report.
course, there was a
prepared.
clerical error. Anything you put down is not going to be good.
Well, I
How
can't,
can you spin? How can you spin breaking down and killing an EMT?
I think it's unreasonable to really break it down like that because we don't know what the guidelines are when things are due, like incident reports, when they are due. I would say that they should be due immediately, but I don't know why it's blank. Like, I can't explain it because I don't work for them. Like for NYPD, if you have an incident, you do it on the spot.
The no knock warrants are usually to gather evidence. Is that what? I'm not.
No knock warrant,
But
sure
they
what
knocked
it's-
anyway.
Yeah, they knocked anyway, which is the weird part. And here, it's just a really weird case in general. Now, they knocked, but a no-knock warrant is technically supposed to give you the element of surprise so that evidence doesn't get destroyed, like whether it's drugs or guns. Now, it's not... See, a lot of people think, oh, well, they were just doing this for drugs. But they never described what drugs they were.
So
Right? They never described it.
Right.
And if you're going into an apartment with drugs, there's reasonable... I think it's reasonable to expect that there might be a gun in the house, because if you're engaged in drug trafficking or selling, chances are you're gonna have a loaded gun on you, right?
So how should we move forward? Should we just blow this off and go, oh well, you know what, guys, don't worry about it. We fucked up. We just got bad intel. She was innocent, but it was our mistake. We didn't mean to kill him, but we had every right to because we bust down their door. We startled them. They returned fire. He did a stand your ground. He didn't break the law.
Yeah, he didn't break the law.
But because he was defending himself, we had to OD on force and fire several bullets into the other person who didn't have a gun.
Well, I don't think they were aiming at that point.
So that's another issue. So
They were shooting
they were
towards
shooting
what was.
They were shooting
So-
in where they thought the fire was probably coming from.
Right.
Because
So who should be held accountable?
who do you hold
Should
accountable?
we just let everybody go then and say, hey, we killed someone. It's a fucked up situation. Fuck it. Let's not learn from this and move forward.
Well, it is a fucked up situation.
Someone needs to be held accountable.
Well, who would you hold accountable? Are you going to hold the informant accountable? Are you going to hold like the people who pass down that information to like the
What do you think the
head?
public wants?
Chain of command. Where
the public always wants an officer to be crucified. That's just the best way to
But
placate
in this
people,
case,
unfortunately.
would they be wrong?
I think it's a very
I know that's tough for you to answer
It's-
because you're.
it's a conflict. This is just so conflicting, the whole account, because you have the stand your ground law in place. I mean, I don't think Kenneth Walker was expecting cops anyway. Like, yeah, listen, if someone's knocking down your door and you have your gun pointed that way, I don't think you're listening really for someone to say police or whatever anyway, because you have tunnel vision.
And if I'm sleeping,
you're trying to protect your.
If I'm
home.
sleeping and someone's locked,
and you're trying to protect your home
and
So-
your girl.
and
you
you're
know?
trying to protect your girl,
family, yeah.
everything. So in that instance, when you're seeing this stuff happen in real time, your vision is like very direct. It's tunnel vision. You're
Come on,
just
Rob.
looking straight
Don't you
ahead.
see something fucked up here too? If it wasn't made public, I'm not sure.
Well, it was
I'm
only-
not confident if it didn't have the media coverage that it did. I'm not even sure if Kenneth Walker, what's his name? Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker. Yeah.
I'm not even positive that Kenneth Walker would be out of jail. Why did he go to jail in the first place? He didn't break a law.
Well, he shot at an officer.
Well,
and
he didn't
hit
know
one.
it was on. They were
He didn't know.
plain clothes,
But here's the thing: you arrest and you investigate,
and they
then
barged
if
in his home.
you arrest, you investigate, and if the investigation warrants a dismissal, he gets released, and that's what happened.
But why was he jailed?
Because he shot at an officer. At that point, you're investigating. You take whoever you need to into custody while you complete the investigation. And yes, that sucks, but that's
If
part
you're
of the
Kenneth
process.
Walker, are you doing anything different?
I can't speak to his frame of mind. He's obviously suing, which that's another story.
No, I mean, like, I think the
No.
question was, and the incident, like,
You're
if
Kenneth
you were-
Walker. I'm not talking about you suing. I'm talking about you're sleeping with your girlfriend.
and I have
and
to stand your ground
someone-
law. I'm not in Kentucky though.
Yeah, everything the same thing.
I would probably
You have
do
a
the
stand-
same exact thing.
And then on top of
'Cause
that,
I don't know.
So now they killed your girl, and on top of that, you're going to jail, buddy.
Yeah, I mean
we killed your girl.
yeah.
We just took the love of your life away, and on top of that, you know what? Go to jail, motherfucker.
As a civilian, I would be outraged. But as an officer and knowing how things work procedurally in an
You
investigation,
can't blame people for being mad at this situation.
I can't blame them. I'm not blaming them.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this is one where I think even cops got to go, man, I could see it. I could see it.
It can go either way.
I could
this type
see
of
why the
situation.
public's upset about this. It
Yeah,
makes
and
a
I'm
lot
not
of
saying
sense.
that they
like
don't.
George Floyd, I know a lot of cops go, yeah, okay. A lot of cops took the knee.
clear cut.
They were like, yeah, that's clear cut. I think Breonna Taylor, also clear cut.
I don't think it's as clear cut as the Floyd case, honestly.
I think it's clear cut as in, like, how do you jail the guy?
You have to.
I'm not talking about.
I already elaborated on that.
No,
when you're in an investigation,
It's not enough that you took this man's girlfriend.
it's wrong.
and ruined his life.
It's wrong on a civilian level.
But to have criminal charges pressed against him for defending himself, he didn't know who you were. If I'm an officer, and let's say you even did shoot at me, but at this point, I killed your girlfriend, and I can understand you're exercising stand your ground laws. At that point, I'm going, I gotta empathize with you, man. I gotta feel like shit. I just killed an innocent life. That wasn't a criminal. That wasn't a drug dealer. And that person was only shooting at me because he thought that I was trying to break into his house. He didn't know I was an officer. He didn't know that 100%. I'm in my regular clothes. So how can I jail him at the end of the day? That's crazy to me. That's crazy. That's just double downing on the evil.
Okay.
I can't justify that.
I'll disagree.
I can't justify that part of jailing him. I can't.
I'll disagree.
But the investigation was still ongoing, right? So it was like
It's
you
ongoing.
Got to figure out like if he's innocent or not.
Yeah.
At that point.
So you have to
But
take him in.
but to jail him? I
Okay,
don't
let me.
know, man. That's-
Okay,
that's too much.
I'll disagree with you on that. And like Norman said, like it's an ongoing investigation. And I say this as a uniformed officer. The guy just shot Kenneth Walker. He just shot at an officer and injured him. Right? Valid injury, everything. You can't let him go, even though it's messed up, and you might empathize with him and his situation that he just lost someone that he loved. You still have to do your job and investigate, and unfortunately, that requires you to arrest him and interview.
So he's
him.
guilty until proven innocent.
No, it's not. It's an investigation.
Well, if you jailed him, that means he's guilty.
He has to be interviewed.
He can't be in.
You can't remove somebody from the scene not in cuffs when they were armed.
But how do you lock someone up who's innocent, who hasn't been proven guilty? That's my point.
You don't know all that yet.
Exactly, but
You have to take him in.
But you don't know
And
that he's
he was-
guilty either.
He was armed. He fired at an officer. You have to take him in. You can't take somebody in like that without cuffs. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Kentucky, but in that instance, you have to put them in cuffs because they were in possession of a deadly weapon. And when you're doing an investigation, whether or not he was under arrest, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think they jailed him, but like they had every reason to take him in to continue the investigation, regardless of how messed up the situation and how messed up the optics may seem to us.
So they talked to him, and then
They talked to him.
and then he put him in jail. Still,
They
Or-
have to, because the crime that they charged him with was assault on a police officer with a deadly weapon, I think. I don't know the exact charge because it's different across state lines, but they charged him with it. But here's the thing. In an ongoing investigation, like in that instance, you did your job. You took him in. You do the interrogation or questioning, interview, whatever you want to call it. And then it's up to the DA, whether the district attorney, whether or not they want to prosecute or whether or not they want to indict you for discharging a firearm at an officer. And here's where the district attorney comes into play. They have to determine whether or not like he was justified in discharging his firearm to stand his ground. And they chose not to indict, right?
I don't like that whole situation. I think it's a.
You don't have to like it, but that's
No.
how justice works, unfortunately.
I
That's,
think
you have to revamp the whole criminal justice system in order to correct that. But just because you disagree with it doesn't mean that it's wrong.
it is wrong.
It's procedurally the
It is
thing to
wrong,
do.
though. Rob,
Well,
it is wrong.
That's your opinion.
It's a fact.
We have
Because-
a differing opinion on it.
Because if you're Kenneth Walker, you're not going to tell me that that's right.
If I was, again, that's on the civilian side. On the uniform side, which is why I'm here to provide a different perspective. And I'm not going to argue with you, like, because we can go round and round in circles about this. I believe that the officers did the right thing. You have to bring him in. You have to get him interviewed.
Oh my God, I cannot disagree with you more strongly.
You don't have to agree. Like I said, it's part of the investigation. Like, I don't think it's really a nice thing to do, obviously, as a human being, to bring in someone that just lost a loved one. But he also fired at an officer. And regardless of whether or not it was stand your ground, you have to bring him in for the investigation. Like, I think when people think about how messed up it is, they get emotionally worked up about it. And the thing is, you have to distance your emotion and look at the facts. When you look at the facts, You have to
When
say,
you look at the facts, it does not look good for the cops.
well, how does it not look good though? Because they didn't have body cam footage.
They didn't have body cam footage.
Well, again, like, we haven't verified that.
The
I dabble in facts. I'm not
let's talk
speculating.
But what we read,
but-
actually, they do have body cam
The
footage. but it
officers that
hasn't really-
responded,
Right.
the responding
they
officers.
didn't broke down who had the body cams.
Like, it could be, yeah.
They never broke that down.
Right. So it's not confirmed if the plainclothes had body cams or the responding officers that came afterwards or not.
Okay. And then, so let's go with facts. Let's go with what we know. Body cam footage right now. At the end of the day, no matter what you say, there's none right now being shared.
Right.
That's one. Two, virtually blank incident report.
Okay, let's go. We already discussed
So that's
this.
two. Oh, we did. So,
we did discuss this already.
so we did. But we're just going by facts. All right. Well, I'm not discussing the facts.
Well,
we already crossed that
let's
bridge.
break it down one at a time. Let's break it down one at a time.
Hold on.
Your body
And then
cam.
hold on, Rob.
Let's go with the body cam first.
The third.
We
thing,
already addressed that.
But we already addressed that. The
Okay.
third. You said let's go by facts. So I'm just listing facts. I don't want to get
Okay.
deterred by that. So those two things. So then you got the third thing. You know that you had bad intel. That what this person you thought had something was not. That wasn't it.
How do you know you have bad intel until you get into that apartment to verify that there weren't drugs in there?
So what, you supposed to kill everybody like that? You're supposed to be...
You return fire when you're fired upon.
But then...
We've established that deadly
but that's
force can be
because-
met with deadly force.
Right. But then they're the one that instigated the deadly force to begin with. You said it yourself. If you were Kenneth Walker, you wouldn't have done anything different.
Like
if
I said-
someone's busting the hinges of your door, you're shooting at them.
Like I said, that's only from a civilian perspective.
If I know that that's the police 100%.
I'm in both shoes.
I know, but I'm saying if I know that 100% the police officers are busting down my doors right now, I'm going to be compliant. I'm going to go, I'm not that guy, dude. My hands are up. You got the wrong guy. Let's understand this situation. I'm not going to escalate it. But if I don't know, if there's plainclothes dudes and they're really trying to come at me, I got to protect everyone that's in my house.
Right, and that's why I said this is a complicated case. It's not as clear cut as the what was it?
George Floyd.
Not George.
Ahmaud,
It's not as clear cut as George Floyd, and it's not as clear cut
Rashad
as
Brooks.
Rashad Brooks, because you have. It's just not clear cut.
Well, I think Rashad Brooks is a little more
conflicting-
complicated.
I don't think Rashad Brooks is that complicated. The guy took a taser, he
Yeah,
pointed
yeah,
at the officer, and
yeah.
it was met with deadly force.
That's what I mean. It's not as, but I'm saying Breonna Taylor, I feel.
It's more complicated because there's a lot of different factors at play.
I think Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, I think those are just, that's tough.
George
man.
Floyd is very clear cut. It was wrong.
Yeah,
Rashad-
but Breonna
Rashad-
Taylor is clear
Rashad
cut
Brooks-
and wrong too.
Rashad Brooks, his case is a little more complicated than Floyd, but I think if you look at it from a procedural and procedural perspective and how force was used based on Georgia law, which dictates that a conducted energy weapon is a deadly weapon and can be met with deadly force, it's pretty clear cut in favor of the Officer Rolfe, I believe. And how can people say that a conducted energy weapon is a non-deadly weapon in the hands of a civilian? Like, that's the most absurd argument I've heard in that whole case. That's absurd. How can you say that a taser is not deadly in the hands of a civilian? Because they don't know how to work a safety.
I don't think anyone's arguing that here. I'm just more for the Breonna Taylor.
Right, and
and
I'm getting to it. Breonna Taylor, we have the facts. So you pointed out the first fact was no body cam. We don't know whether or not those plainclothes officers serving the no-knock warrant had body cams. We don't. We know that body cams are present from the responding officers, the hundreds of whatever officers responded, right? But we don't know. We just don't have all the information, even though, I mean, it's not in the press, obviously, so I don't know it. Mm-hmm. It might be available to the DA, the district attorney, and to the cops and the department over in Kentucky. But we don't know that. It's never been published. And it's been months, right?
Yeah, it's been
It's been months.
a long time.
Okay, as for the incident report, okay, it was blank. I don't know what the timetable for it is for that department or that precinct or whatever you want to call it, for them to turn in a full report, a full incident report. Now, we don't have any information on when that report was completed or if it was completed, right? Am I right or wrong on that one? I don't believe there's anything out there about whether or not it was eventually completed. They just said it was a clerical error.
Oh, you're saying what you're saying is like the officers might not even have actually put in an incident report. You're saying that?
If you get into a shooting, right, I know in NYPD you have to do a whole series of reports, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why that report was incomplete. I don't know if there's a time frame for them to complete it.
It's been a couple months. I mean, it's
I
been
know
months,
but we don't know if there's a complete report, right? It hasn't been made public. That's a fact, right? Well, the third point was what was it about?
Jailing
It's
him.
messed up, jailing him. Okay, so emotionally and from a civilian standpoint, yeah, it's pretty messed up that they had to jail him. But from a uniform side, from the uniform perspective, if you shot and wounded an officer, you have to bring him in to see why he shot. You have to investigate. And yes, unfortunately, he has to go through the processing, central booking or whatever they call it in Kentucky. They have to go through the process. And then the DA has to vindicate them or decide to indict or whatever they do when they do the discovery process and, well, maybe not a discovery process, but like, you know, the pre-trial prep and interviews and all that. That's for them to do. The officer's job is to bring the person in, the person of interest in, and then process them accordingly. Now, whether or not he, you know, willfully did it out of malice, shooting at a police officer, that's a different, you know, that's trial stuff. That's determined by the DA. Like, we're not the judge. If I bring you in for some offense, right? I bring you in and that's it. That's game over. Like, it is what it is. And then whether or not you're innocent is proven
in the
courts.
And I understand all that. I know the judge doesn't, I mean, the police officers don't make their arrest and then hand down a sentence. I mean, I think anyone knows that. But my concern is, would Kenneth Walker be a free man now if this didn't get the same media coverage? Would they just have convicted him of all the charges?
I don't know the
and
exact.
keep him in jail.
I don't know
that's something.
I don't know the exact date that he was that they declined to prosecute. So that's something that we would have to look up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you know?
I don't know the answer to that. So I'm not going to say it because, you know, I don't like saying things just for the sake of saying things. I like to dabble with information I have at hand. So, I mean, I don't know if he was freed because, but he's definitely suing the department right now, and the whole lawsuit is just weird too.
All right, so you're saying there's something weird about his case?
I mean, it's not completely weird. I just find there's
Like,
a lot of
weird?
conflicts. Like in the whole case itself, even with the lawsuit, there's like this weird. There's this small like conflict in what the lawyer is saying and what Kenneth Walker and the police are saying. So, I mean, this was a little tidbit I just picked up, and I just thought it was weird because Kenneth Walker and the police, they all acknowledged that they heard a knock, or that a knock happened. The police officers, the one that did the, I guess, knocking or took down the door or whatever,
Right.
at some point, he acknowledged that he did knock on the door 3 times, actually. I think he said 3 times.
Okay.
And then Kenneth Walker said that he heard the knock before the door came loose. But Kenneth Walker's lawyer said
He did.
the police need to get their story straight. And then he qualified that by following it up and saying, my client did not hear a knock. So I don't know why there's this like, I guess.
Someone's lying. There's 3 parts to this.
No, it's not that someone's lying, but there's no consistency. And it's just like the whole shooting itself. It's just complicated. And
It is
there's a
complicated.
series
I
of
agree with you on that.
conflicts.
It's complicated in that the whole system is just, Kenneth Walker got fucked there and Breonna Taylor. They got the whole short end of the stick here.
Yeah, I think Kenneth Walker.
There needs to be some type of justice for them.
Kenneth Walker definitely lost quite a bit. I mean, he lost Breonna Taylor. And
I mean, this is a life we're talking about.
yeah, it's a
so
life.
It's not insignificant.
He ended up in jail for I don't know how long.
Because you want to talk about negative police experiences, their job is to protect and serve. And in this case,
They failed. Yeah, I mean, it's
the complete opposite
It's
of
a
that.
failing, and it feels like a failing. But again, it's still an ongoing investigation.
do you think it's gonna change for the better, or is it always gonna be like this?
I think it can change for the better. Now, whether or not, how long it takes is another story. I like to think I'm an optimist and that things can get better, but you know, it does. It's really hard to to take these situations and then just really sensationalize them. And I feel the media doesn't always paint like a complete picture for everybody.
Sure.
Like they'll omit certain facts because they just want to break the story. And so you don't have a complete set of facts to work with. So everyone's just outraged. And then it just leads to like these protests.
I do commend you, as a police officer of the NYPD, for you to actually have the guts to speak on this and give your honest take on both sides, be reasonable, and have that middle ground discussion. I think we need more people like you, to be honest. I think that would be great to have that transparency, have that healthy discussion, because it needs to be had. And I hope moving forward, we can all learn a little bit of something about what's going on presently so that cases like this doesn't keep reoccurring. I mean, this is just too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's just, you can't avoid stuff like this. They just happen. And they always seem to happen in clusters. Have you noticed that?
I know.
It's like one guy gets killed and then next thing you know, like somewhere 2,000 miles away or 1,000 miles away, another one gets killed. And then
But the crazy thing is these things are probably happening all the time.
No, I don't
it's
doubt
just
it.
now it's, obviously people are
That's
recording it. People are, obviously.
I got the thought back. Breonna Taylor, like you mentioned whether or not it would have been pursued more vehemently had it not been for George Floyd or Rayshard Brooks, right?
Correct. If it wasn't so publicized.
No, I don't know, but I think this is a fundamental failing of Black Lives Matter, honestly. Like, they're the ones that are kind of pushing for this change or this movement, but they didn't really do much with it, right? Like, my perception, it might be wrong, but I feel like the outrage really came out with just George Floyd, and then everything else came to the forefront, and it was secondary. Like Breonna Taylor. Like
I think
you didn't
Black
really
Lives,
know about her.
I'm not so sure about that. I think Black Lives Matter was already there before George Floyd.
They might have been.
It just got really loud during that
With
time.
George Floyd.
No, they 100% been around before George Floyd. It's just that Black Lives Matter has been around since Kaepernick been taking a knee.
Right.
But and it's always been, they've always been saying, hey, Black Lives, and people try to undercut them. No, all lives matter. I mean, that just does a whole nother stupid argument.
That slogan is not accurate anyway. It's
they say all lives matter to try to undercut
like a twisted,
Black Lives
It's a
matter.
distraction from the what's
We're
I
not
agree.
saying, because they're not saying, Asian
other lives
lives,
don't
white
matter.
lives. They're not saying that those people don't matter or blue lives don't matter. They're not saying any of those
They're
things.
just saying Black Lives Matter.
They're just saying stop killing us.
Yeah.
Stop attack. Stop.
Our lives matter.
Yes.
That's what they're saying.
Stop, because they're devaluing their life essentially, where it's exposable or disposable, I should say. And I don't think that it just became popularized with George Floyd, but I do think because of COVID, just everything is just a melting pot. And eventually, if I keep asking you, I'm like, hey, don't do that, please. Please don't do that. Hey, can you please stop? And then, stop fucking with me. Hey, dude, like you really, like last warning, you got, and then you just keep pressing on me. And then that George Floyd thing hits, then it's just,
metaphorically too.
I'm going to explode.
Yeah.
So that's why Black Lives Matter seem to, for a lot of people, they were like, it's just because of George Floyd. No, it's not. It's not. It was happening way before George Floyd.
It was happening way before. But I think what I take issue with is that Breonna Taylor, she was just she was not really emphasized by BLM. Like, I didn't really see anything about them protesting that. And it's funny because Black Lives Matter is like founded by 3 women. Mm-hmm. You would think they would have kind of like this bent towards advertising cases of unwarranted or unjustified violence against
but there
Black
are people
women. No, there are
black people pushing for justice on the Breonna Taylor case.
It's because you don't see it. It's probably because the media is not as focused on Breonna Taylor as they are George Floyd.
Right, but I can tell you that there's
no body cam footage too.
Yeah, there's certain parts.
Exactly.
Now, if that comes out, then that's a whole different.
If that comes out, that's a whole different. It's not apples to apples with George Floyd.
Yeah.
You know, and with George Floyd, the footage there. I mean, I'm sure if they had footage of Breonna Taylor sleeping at home, if there was like
if they had that, it would be,
believe me, that's going straight to the top.
That's like a very clear cut case if you have all of that, but they don't.
Right.
And
so I don't blame Black Lives Matter.
I mean, I don't blame them.
I just don't know that they, you know, like the media is going to cover it the same. I don't think. I know for a fact that, you know, that's definitely in the scope of Black lives and people, Black leaders and Black celebrities that are on the forefront. They know that there should be some justice to this case.
I think with the George Floyd thing, again, it's like you see it on camera. Like Breonna Taylor, you can't see it. There's no body cam. Right. So it's easier for the media to really sensationalize it. But that shouldn't be necessary. Like, I think if someone has been wronged and someone lost their life, it should be put on the media. Like, regardless.
It's different though, right?
And you know,
it's different because psychologically, how do we all need to paint a picture for the layman to understand.
Right. And
George Floyd, just by watching that video, unfortunately, we can all understand what Black Lives Matter mean now. If you didn't before, you have to understand now.
Right.
Just by watching that video, it's like, dude, they've been screaming about this for decades.
Yeah,
like, come on, man. Like, do you need anything more other than this? Now they had something with Breonna Taylor. I think, oh my gosh, there'll be a round 2. We're going for another round of protest and looting, and there's just going to be, it's going to be absolutely crazy. And maybe that's why they didn't release the footage.
Well, they didn't really.
I don't know.
This was way before though.
I don't.
Way before George Floyd.
Yeah, this was like months before that.
But yeah, but
you're talking about right now.
They have control of it. You don't think that they know if they release footage
what this might do
of what the potential harm, George Floyd or not, even if it's before, like they know that, hey, we release this out and the press gets a hold of this and it starts going around social media, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. They're going to charge at that precinct. Civilians are going to be protesting all across America. They're going to start bum rushing themselves into precincts, taking over, doing everything they can to create anarchy because there's going to be justified outrage against the injustice that happened to Breonna Taylor. And now you can actually visually see it. It's going to be crazy.
Right. Anytime you can see something on video,
you have to put it in layman's terms.
It's just,
it becomes real in people's minds.
Exactly.
Right?
It becomes real.
And that's, I mean, you shouldn't need video. That's the thing. I think the media really relies on video to really,
but not just the media,
strong at a narrative.
But just not just media.
But a lot of people are visual.
Like regular people.
A lot of people are visual learners.
Like you and me.
Yeah, I mean,
they're visual.
We could read about it, but is it?
It's different.
It's different when you
yes,
see
it is. It's definitely
like if I told you about the George Floyd case and there was no video, it wouldn't be as powerful. It wouldn't be as powerful to the masses.
I mean, you're right, and that goes back to like the whole Eric Garner video too, right? You had video of that.
That's hard to watch too, man.
Yeah, but that was pretty hard to watch. I mean, I'm not going to second guess that cop. I mean, he did what he did because he was ordered to do it. Not necessarily like the actual takedown procedure, but he was ordered to that position.
That's a whole nother, like he didn't.
He was ordered to go there to
selling cigarettes.
No, he was told to go there to address a condition.
Selling Lucy's and
addressing. What do you mean?
That's a condition. I mean, that was what they said was a problem.
Look, there are things that
whether or not
I disagree with the public on, with defunding the police. There's segments there I really believe in supporting the police officers more, but there's also the way some police officers move with aggression, man, and it just seems like an abuse of power. Like it's just they're ODing, man. They're just doing too much of a certain thing where it causes the public not to trust them, and it creates this like animosity, you know. And just like it's just like anywhere, in any walk of life, you have that
people
needs to be corrected
that are just extra. Just people in general. There are some people that are just extra, and it's just like how
you just don't think.
It's just like it's just like how
too much force.
Yeah, it's just like how Alfred put it in one of the Batman movies. He was just like, some people just want to watch the world burn. You know,
on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides, and they don't give a fuck about the collateral damage that happens.
Let's move on with it. I think I had enough of this crime talk, man.
Crime Stoppers.
But thank
Call
you
Rob.
so much for coming by, addressing some of those topics. I mean, that's I guess headlines, front page worthy, and it's been a lot of our minds.
And providing your perspective, because this is something that's new to
not
us.
too many people get a perspective from an insider. You're absolutely right about that.
They don't want to hear it. I think that's really.
I think a
the
lot of
tragic
people do.
part.
I disagree. That's the whole reason why we wanted to bring you on. We were like, we want to hear what a police officer has to say about this.
Right. I mean, it's just my opinion. I mean, this is,
of course,
my analysis of like what happened. So
Right.
I'm not going to say it's representative of the department itself,
Right.
because I can't.
Right.
It's everybody has a different thought about things.
Exactly. But you will have a certain perspective that none of us civilians have.
Right. And I hope I brought that. I mean,
So maybe, and maybe some people listening to you agree with a lot of what you say. Like, you know what? If I was a cop, I could totally get what he's saying. I didn't look at it like that. So there you go.